Okay.
It's a good cup of tea.
Is it?
It's a good cup of tea, yeah.
English breakfast. Good old, is it?
Good old English breakfast.
What's the brand of this one? This Twinings?
No, I think it's, well, it's got a crown on it. Whatever is a crown. It's probably one that I picked up in a hotel.
Oh, welcome back.
That I didn't use.
Welcome back to our to tea. No, what are we? Truth, courage, and tea. For another week of conversation, just sitting around having a cuppa and having a chat.
Yeah. We spoke about a lot of truth last week, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We covered a lot of ground, and hopefully that's, you know, you're engaged in that. We've seen some great comments come through, so thank you very much. We just want to continue in this way, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it's just having conversations.
That's it. Yeah, we spoke about that. We don't want agendas. But we are happy for you to give us topics to talk about.
Absolutely.
But we do want to talk about them just as in a conversation.
Yeah. We don't want to do a lot of research.
No, we just want to
have a tea and chat for half an hour every week. Have a tea and chat.
Yeah.
Who knows where it'll go? But we would love you to subscribe to our channel and like this video. And we really, really appreciate it. We love sitting around having conversations, and that's why we just thought, why not capture them? Because you probably have the same conversations with your girlfriends or your family or whoever you have conversations, or maybe you don't. Maybe you don't have that opportunity to sit around and just chat, so you can listen to us. I always remember years and years ago when we would have big family Christmases, and we don't tend to do that so much anymore because I've only got 2 children, but I remember my grandmother, like my father was one of 9 or 10. So we would go over to their place. They lived in Adelaide. We lived in Sydney. So every second year we would go over to their place for Christmas, and the other year they would come over to ours. But when we would go over to their place, because all my dad's family lived there, we would have this big, huge Christmas. Outside it was hot under the old carport. The trestle would be set up, and my grandmother was an amazing cook, and so we had everything, the hot Christmas stuff. But I always remember the conversations, and it was like there would be, 10 conversations going on at once. And I was only young, but I always noticed that the adults, it didn't matter which conversation they were in, they could jump to another conversation and just pick up like they were actually part of that conversation. So you'd have all these conversations going on, and people, and of course, like a lot of Christmases, you have those family arguments that really don't mean too much at the time, but it's just that, pressure of people being together. So I think those conversations are the best, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree. We had, my dad is only one of 2, and mum was one of, technically 4. But my nana did put on really big Christmases as well.
Yeah.
There were a lot of grandkids, and she'd have the trestle table, out the back, and, those big family gatherings. Like, I haven't had one of those, Lisa, for decades.
I know.
Decades.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I don't know whether, I don't think many people have large families anymore, by their choice, for whatever reason they've chosen not to. And I think families have, people have moved away for jobs, for reasons that they have to move away from, I guess, that nucleus of the family home. And it's just, people are busy, I guess.
Yeah.
I would always hope that I'm never too busy to, do family things. But I think we talked a little bit about this last week. In different parts of your life, you have different things that you need to focus on. And, I moved away from my mum and dad many years ago. And I always tried to get back home to see them. And I was, again, my mum was one of 3. So she had 2 sisters. So not a big family, but it was my dad's family that I remember, the big Christmases and the big get-togethers. And when we would go home to Adelaide, there was always we were always celebrating something. So there was always a lot of people around. But I guess as, my grandmother passed away, and I guess as people, my dad has passed away, and a couple of his brothers have passed away. So you don't tend to gravitate. And our kids have got older, and we've got grandkids now. So, you tend to gravitate differently, I think.
Yeah, you don't realise until you actually think back how much things have changed, because even, and I spoke to someone about this only this week, about just, you know, popping in to see people. Like, that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Because I think, like you said, everyone is busy, and so you don't want to, I guess, go there and it's a bad time, you know. So you tend to sort of plan everything to the end. But, you know, I remember growing up, that was a big thing. We'd just get in the car and we'd go and pop over and see somebody, and, you know, we'd have picnics constantly. And, you know, I do wonder if with the whole evolution of social media, whether that's taken away a lot of the time that we actually used to spend with family.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because social media has had such an impact, I'm pretty sure, on most people's lives. I'm sure there are some people around, and maybe even you listening, you know, or you know, being part of this conversation, have chosen not to be on social media or whatever. But, you know, I think technology in general has impacted and influenced a lot of people's lives. And whether it's just email, you know, I remember it's easier to email someone than to actually pick up a phone and, you know, talk to them. I mean, I've got a phone, right? You know, I've got an Apple iPhone. I very rarely ring people. I message people because I'm not sure why. I don't know, because I like to have a chat. Like, I like to talk to people, but it just, I don't know whether it's my thinking that they might not have time to take a call or...
Yeah, and someone challenged me a little while back, you know, to stop making assumptions, because we all do it. We make assumptions and they're not necessarily right. That's you thinking that. You don't know what the other person's thinking. They may be thinking, gee, it'd be lovely to get a call from Lisa. But I know, look, in our business, my husband has a boutique law firm, and something that we struggled with staff was to actually get them to pick up the phone, even for work. So many of the juniors in that age bracket were just so uncomfortable. Again, that's why we've created this, because it's had an impact on conversations. It's not just having a conversation over a cup of tea. It's picking up the phone and having a even 5-minute conversation. You know, it's definitely something that's been lost.
It's a different time, but I always think, like, I you know, maybe like many of you, I didn't grow up with a phone, like not a mobile phone. We just had the old handheld phone. But last week, Paul and I went out to Stanthorpe for a couple of nights getaway, and where we were staying, it was outside of Stanthorpe, and it was a beautiful place. Again, I'll put a link to it if you ever want to stay somewhere in Stanthorpe. It was a nice place, the Granite Belt Brewery and Retreat. But it was just far enough out that there was very, very little reception on your phone, like very little reception. And when Paul and I first got there, we were like, I had one tiny little bar on 4G, and which just kept going in and out. And so I was a bit like, oh my God, how am I going to keep up with what's going on? Facebook's, Instagram, how am I going to message the kids? How am I going to know what's happening in the world? And the TV they had there, I don't even know what brand it was, but it was only a small TV, and you could only get the ABC and SBS. So we were a bit like, you know, Paul's like, I'm like, oh, that's all right, you know, ABC, SBS, but Paul's like, you know, well, maybe some people want to come out and just watch TV. They did have, the TV was that old, it had in the side of it where you could put DVDs. And they had a stock of DVDs in their reception area that you could, and they were all old, because I don't know, nothing comes out on DVD anymore, does it? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you can still buy up-to-date DVDs. We're so blessed or whatever with streaming services, but it was like this, probably an hour of bit of panic about how the hell am I going to keep up with what's going on in the world. But then as we got there, and it was beautiful. It was so quiet. It was so cold. If you've been to Stanthorpe in winter, you'll understand. It was very cold, but it was so peaceful where we were. And, you know, we took all our stuff up, unpacked and whatever, and it was a wood fire. So I said to Paul, we've got to get this fire going. And it was been ages since we've had to start a fire. So But then we went down into they have like a bar and restaurant there, and we went down to the bar and had a glass of wine, and I didn't bother taking my phone because I'm thinking, I can't, I know.
One bar.
So I left it at home. Paul did have better, I'm with Optus, and I actually, on a whole complete side note, I was pretty disappointed that Optus couldn't get reception there, but Paul's with, he's not with Telstra, he's with someone who uses Telstra, and he did have actually quite good reception in certain parts of the place where we stayed. But we just went, sat, and had a glass of wine. I had a glass of wine. Paul had some, he had ginger beer because it's a little brewery, so they brew their own beer. So it was all like craft beers. It was actually nice. We turned on, after dinner that night, we turned on the TV, and even that was real sketchy reception. But I don't know, we watched things on the ABC, which were really interesting. ABC gets a bad rap, I know, because it's like that whole government-funded type, television station. But there was actually some really good things on, and that was, I know we spoke about this last week about, the passing of Sam Neill, but they had some stories on with him, and so it was just interesting. But what was more interesting was how the panic I felt, because I was disconnected from the world.
Yeah, and I think that's something for all of us. And this is what I mean about getting time back. I know it's actually well documented. Most people on average in a day will scroll at least a couple of hours, on social media. And if you could get that couple of hours back, what would you do? Or on the weekend, you might scroll 5 hours because you just get lost in stuff, right? What would you do with that 5 hours? But in actual fact, everybody, like anything that is not necessarily a good habit, and look, it has its good points, but it has its downside. The self-care thing and actually coming off the grid, I think, is more and more important.
I loved it
these days.
I said to Paul, we're going to do this more often. Maybe not to we won't go to Stanthorpe every time, but there are some beautiful places around Stanthorpe.
We might take you to some of them.
We might go, yeah. We might go and have a bit of a self-care weekend, or midweek getaway or something like that. But it was really, really nice. And yes, I was still able to, because I do love, particularly Instagram. Like I originally, Facebook for me was about keeping connected with family, because we were spread out all over the country, and our daughter lives overseas. Ironically though, she doesn't use social media that much, and neither does my son. But I like it. I'm not afraid to say I like to be tapped into the world via social media. But it was actually really nice just to not have to carry your phone. I mean,
I call it cleansing, Lisa.
It was so cleansing. And there are some beautiful places out there. On the way back, we stopped at Queen Mary Falls, and literally we just, I don't know, it was about an hour. There's a circuit you can do. It's not that far. It's only a couple of kilometres, but, you stop, take photos, just observe. It was so nice because in the past, when we probably didn't have the time, we would just rush to a destination and rush back. But this time, it was like we don't have anywhere to be or anything planned. So we took our time and we stopped at places that in the past we probably have driven, just driven right through. We stopped at a little pub just outside of Boona. I think it's called the Dugandan. Again, I'll put the name in the notes down there. But it was just an old pub that I think was built in the 1800s. And it was, I think at first it wasn't a pub, it was something else, but then they turned it into a pub. So it's still quite old. It's got lots of old photos of what it used to be like back in the day there. And we ordered our meal and sat down, I had a glass of wine, Paul had a Coke, no sugar. But our meal was taking a while to get to us, right? And I did hear someone else who had ordered their meal went up to I didn't get her name, but gorgeous, I don't even know what you call people these days, but she was serving behind the bar, and she was just the right character for that, for doing that. And I overheard her say to the people that the young lad, there was only one young lad chefing today, and there'd been, someone had wanted their meal redone, and so he sort of got behind the 8 ball, and he was only young, and he got a bit flustered, and so things were taking a little bit extra time. And I said to Paul, I said, isn't it nice that we don't have to worry about that? That we can just sit here, enjoy each other's company. Still, even then, didn't have great reception on my phone, but just, you know, just soak it in. And anyway, our meal did take a little while to come out, which was fine. I did go up to the young lad afterwards. His name was Jai. So Jai at Dugandan pub out near Boona. You're a champion, mate. I just went out and said thank you, because he was, you know, just doing the best he could do with, and people just come in. I don't know, you know.
Yeah, and I think again that's because of technology and the evolution of it. I think that's where a lot of people have lost patience. It reflects in everything. Don't get me wrong. Like all levels of customer service, whether you're walking into Centrelink or whether you've ordered a meal, people generally have a reasonably low tolerance, you know, in terms of turnaround and waiting and time. And I think that's where, to some degree, again, social media, if they've got a phone, it sort of keeps them happy. But I don't know about you guys, but I see this so often where people will be sitting at a restaurant. They've obviously gone to the restaurant for the company, but they're just scrolling their phones.
Yeah, I know. It's a weird thing. I'm guilty. I've done that. Maybe not so much when there's a group of us, but if it's just Paul and I've been guilty of just looking on my phone. And I think that comes back to that whole, when you can disconnect, because it is a bit of self-care. It's a bit of self-care for your brain, for your connections, for your understanding of what's going on in a place.
Yeah, well, I think it's like every habit. So anything that you do without thinking, and let's face it, we pick up the phone without thinking, oh, check my messages, or I heard a ting, that's a cue, it's a trigger, I better check my phone, you know. It could be urgent. But I think, like every habit, you just need to be aware of it and then give yourself an opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to dinner tonight and I'm not going to walk in with my phone.
Yeah.
If the world falls apart, it falls apart.
Doesn't matter.
I don't, you know.
I like to take photos though. That's why I do like to take photos. Like, I'm a big memory collector person. So that's always my excuse for taking my phone. But then it can tend to be...
It just makes it harder.
Yeah.
So any habit, if you consider it a bad habit, it's harder if you've got it's like anything, the enticer there. It's like if you're at dinner with someone that's trying not to drink, you know, well, if they've just given up drink, you're in an environment where everyone's drinking and it's social, it makes it harder.
Yeah.
So in order to have a better result with a bad habit, you just take the habit or the cue away. If you can, you know, on that night,
I
no
agree.
photos,
Well,
I
don't know. I can't do no photos. I don't know about you. I'd love to hear. You know, your thoughts on this. But I think you can. You know, again, on social media, I probably saw it. You know, you go to restaurants, you put your phone in a bag, and you know, the bag goes to the side, or everyone puts their phone in the middle of the table, and no one touches their phone. Maybe we should try that next time the four of us go out to dinner. Maybe that's what we might do. Although our phone doesn't come out, like normally, that's what I mean. Normally if I'm with a group of people, my phone will come out for a photo, but if it's just Paul and I, it seems okay to scroll or to have a look.
Yeah, well, the etiquette has, I think there was a time there where when phones were becoming more and more, I guess, the norm, and because people could be contacted anywhere, if you had somebody in a queue that were on the phone, you know, there were policies at one point where you wouldn't be served until you got off the phone, because they were trying to force etiquette, you know, that if you're somewhere to do a transaction or what have you, you shouldn't be on your phone, you know, you should be there. And I used to see people behind a counter.
But is that just how we were brought up? Is that just how we were brought up?
Yeah, it was forcing that etiquette that if you were there, you had to be present, that person should have your full and undivided attention, and if they didn't, you weren't respecting that person, you know. So there was a big push against that, but it didn't win, because now it's just normal that you can have
you can do 5 things at once.
You can be on the phone and you're still saying to the person at the butcher, can I have a kilo of snags, like whatever.
I know.
You know?
No, it's true. You see it all the time.
Yeah.
I think actually, again, I'd love to know your thoughts. I often feel like it's when we ask people not to be on their phones, that makes them more anxious. Like for me, like I said, when we were in Stanthorpe, it actually felt good to not have, to know that I couldn't pick up my phone. It was relaxing. I lent into that. I read, I'm still reading this book, which I will finish this week, called The Wild Place. Great book, set in Victoria, in Australia. But I got to read some of that. And Paul and I did go out during the day, and we did things, and we went to the cheese place and all these beautiful places we went to. But I do understand how for some people that could have created a lot of anxiety for them, not having access to the world, particularly younger people, I guess, because they've just been brought up with having their phones, with them. We talk about now, I was listening to a podcast on the way out anyway, and that was neither here nor there what the podcast was about. But one of the things that they mentioned is that we now have and it would have happened with us, it's always something that happens, but some of the most impactful things that happened in our lifetime, a lot of younger people, that they have no connection to that. They have no emotional connection to these things that happened in the past and so I think for them, they've just always seen a phone on, mum and dad's ear when they were growing up, or taking photos, or like I know my grandchildren, they know how to do my phone, and they're only babies, right? I'm like, oh my God, how do you know that? I feel like for them, that might be very, not so much as grandchildren, but as they grow older, it might cause a lot of anxiousness if they don't have access to this 24/7 social media, internet type thing that goes on in the world.
Even just access to phones, and that's even with the older population. I know when my dad, before he got sick with vascular dementia, if he heard the phone ring, he would literally jump over things to get to the phone, to answer it. And I'd be like, just chill. If it's important, whoever it is, they'll either leave a message or they'll call back. Don't kill yourself trying to pick up the phone. But I do see a lot of that with the older generation, where they're really like, I've got to get that, got to answer the phone. Again, it comes back to that,
probably
I think the old-fashioned...
you always answered the phone back in the day.
Exactly.
I don't know, maybe you didn't, but in the old, what are they called? The rotary, or, those phones, and had the long cord so you could walk around a little bit with it.
Oh my God.
And you always it's really weird, because you always used to answer the phone. Well, we did, with the phone number. Hi, whatever the phone number was. This is Lisa speaking. Now, you would never give that information away so easily, would you? I know I do. I know with my Apple phone, and I'm sure if you've got Apple phones, you may have turned this on or off, but you can basically screen all your calls now. If it's a number that's not known to you, it will just go straight to voice message. And I'm of that view. If they don't leave me a message, then they didn't want to talk to me. And I know we've got, because of the times, we've got a lot more scammers, a lot more nuisance calls, a lot more, people ringing for things that you just really don't want to talk to people about.
And because people do genuinely have less time, I did grow up in a family where, generally speaking, mum was at home. Mum was the housewife and looked after everything and got us off to school and was there when we got home from school and all the rest of it. People don't have that time anymore, so I do think that they screen everything a lot more. Set boundaries. My daughter, who's only 20, has got phenomenal boundaries. I can't believe the boundaries that she is very fixated on, and I find a lot of people in that cohort are like that, set very good boundaries, whereas my boundaries are still a bit wishy-washy, Yeah,
I set boundaries, and maybe that's a topic for another week's conversation, but I have loose boundaries. But anyway, we'd love to know your thoughts on self-care, on, having access to this 24/7.
Coming off the grid.
Yeah, getting off the grid.
That's appealing to you.
I liked it. I mean, I don't know that I could do it forever anymore, but I didn't mind not having access. Because even the Wi-Fi out at Stanthorpe where we were was, I had one little bar on the Wi-Fi, and it was like that thing, you had to hold your phone, move it around, go up on the hill, and you know, if you really wanted to. But when you went into town, we were probably about, I don't know, 5 or 6 kilometres out of Stanthorpe itself. When you went into Stanthorpe, you had good reception. So yeah, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on being disconnected from the world, and would it make you anxious, or do you do it? Do you not have a phone? Do you not carry it with you? I know, you know, lots of people. I'm sure there are lots of people who still do not have, but I find now everything is on my phone. Like everything is on my phone. So
Yeah, I'd be one of those people that would fall off the cliff trying to catch it if I dropped it.
Yeah, I know, get nervous. So yeah, let us know your thoughts. We would, again, thank you for joining us this week. I think we'll wrap this up and disconnect from the world for a little while as we go into another beautiful weekend. Please like, subscribe and comment, and tell us your thoughts on what you think. We're into our 3rd episode, so you know, we'll keep going, and we're enjoying it. It's something that we've wanted to do for a long time, like you would know. And we're going to continue just doing this.
And maybe you can let us know in the comments if you have tried anything that we've spoken about this week, you know, and how that made you feel, you know, whether you did disconnect and you actually got to know yourself a bit better. That might be another topic for another day.
Absolutely. And any great places that you know of. We are on the Gold Coast, so any great places that you know that are within a couple of hours of the Gold Coast for a drive, even if it's just for a day, we can go and have a cup of tea somewhere. Or we could actually do the whole, let's get away for a few nights and get right off the grid.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Have a great week.
Have a great week. Cheers.
See you next time.